Today, I'm going to be smoking a pork shoulder and a rack of ribs. My buddy here is going to help. To get this started, this is a 12-pound pork shoulder, and it's going to take a long time to smoke. So I'm going to smoke this with the fat cap up, so that way when the fat melts, it's going to kind of marinate the meat. But in the meantime, I'm going to trim off a lot of this kind of unwanted fat. That I don't want it super fatty, but I do want to leave a little bit of a fat cap on here. And honestly, this pork shoulder came pretty close to trimmed it how I want it to be anyways. Here in the United States, tomorrow is, at least for me, is the opening for NFL or American football. And we're going to have a party. So we're going to invite some of our friends over. I'm going to smoke this pork shoulder and the rack of baby back ribs over there. And I'm going to bring you guys along for the journey of how I do it. I'm not like a classically trained chef or anything like this, but I am into barbecue, and I'm going to show you my technique. So I'm going to trim most of the fat off of this, but I'm going to leave a little bit on there because I do want it to marinate the meat, but not too much. So it might not look incredibly different, but I did remove about a pound of fat and pieces of the meat that I didn't really want to have on there. So next step is I'm just gonna get this thing rubbed down. Like always, I just use standard yellow mustard to get my rub to stick. And the rub that I use is a very simple rub, just salt and pepper. I don't like to do anything crazy. I like to keep it pretty simple. I am gonna put it on here pretty liberally, so that way I can create a nice little crust on it. Even though I am working kind of a time crunch on this one. Coming in at a 12-pound pork shoulder like this, it's going to take a really long time to smoke. Normally you're looking at about an hour and a half per pound. So that comes out to, I don't even know, what would that be? So 12 hours plus another 6. So we're looking at 18 hours. I don't have 18 hours. It is about 10 o'clock at night right now, and I am inviting people over at noon tomorrow, which gives me 14 hours to do this. So normally what I would do is I would try to smoke this at about 225 degrees. I'm gonna smoke this at about 250 degrees. And also when it hits 150 is what people call the crutch on here. It's when the fat starts to melt. And as the fat is melting, it is blocking the temperature from rising, which normally happens at about 150 degrees. And so what you have to do is you have to wait for all the fat to basically melt off, and the temperature of the meat can start to rise again. And to combat that and to help kind of get that going, what you do is you can wrap it in tinfoil, which is going to expedite that process of the fat melting off of this and allow it to start raising in temperature again to get to that finished temp of about 195, 200 degrees is what I'm going to be aiming for on this. So like I said, I'm going to go pretty heavy on the salt and pepper. Alright, I've got my smoker outside, which is currently coming up to temp at the moment. I use a Weber Smoky Mountain to smoke my meat, and I've got about a whole bag of charcoal in there, plus maybe even a little bit more, because this is a really long smoke, and it's kind of, honestly, it's kind of a pain to get to add more charcoal when you start losing temp, but this Weber Smoky Mountain holds its temp pretty well, but it's going to be a pretty long night. Alright, I got this thing rubbed down pretty good with salt and pepper. Wait for the smoker to come up to temp, and we're going to get this thing going. Now I know you guys can't see too terribly well, and I apologize for that, but I've got this thing up to 250 degrees. I'm going to put this baby on. So I've got a water pan that's in there that's holding about 3 pitchers full of water. And like I said, I got about a bag of charcoal in there, and I'm going to use apple wood to smoke tonight. I'm going to do a little something different with the rub for the rack of ribs. So in my mortar and pestle here, I've got some sea salt, I have some peppercorns, but I'm going to do these ribs kind of spicy. This is more like an experimental thing. So I got these this chili piquin peppers from Mexico, and they're approximately 70,000 Scoville, and I guess they're traditionally used in like a mole or something. But I'm going to toss a bunch of these in here. So let's see here, 1, 2, 3. Oh god, I'm going to put about 10 in here, just kind of crush them up with it, and make a nice little spicy rub for the ribs. All right, now that I got that rub made, it's time to trim the rack of ribs here. So again, I'm just gonna take some of the unwanted fat off of here. There's also a layer of silver skin that comes on the bottom of these ribs that I don't have to peel off too. But these are baby backs and they don't have a lot of fat. I normally cook with spare ribs, but today I'm doing baby backs. Okay, now that I got this thing all trimmed down, it's time to get the rub going. Again, using mustard to get everything to stick. So get a nice little layer going. Oh, this rub packs a good amount of heat. Now, like I told you, I'm gonna wrap the pork shoulder. I'm not gonna wrap the ribs. These take a while to cook, but I've got plenty of time for these. So I'm gonna let these go the duration without wrapping them. All right, I'm gonna wrap this in saran wrap and let it kind of marinate itself in the refrigerator for a few hours. So I've got the rack of ribs all wrapped up in saran wrap. I'm gonna let this sit in the refrigerator for a few hours. The pork shoulder's on there going. Like I said, I was using apple wood. Apple's is a pretty mild wood and doesn't impart super smoky flavors. I use it for everything from brisket to ribs to pork shoulders. That's definitely my preferred wood to use. It's now about 10:45, so the pork shoulder's been on there for about 20 minutes now, and I'm gonna let it just go until it hits about 150 degrees. I'm gonna wrap it in tin foil, and we're gonna see how long this baby takes. All right, we're off to a great start. The shoulder's been there for about 2 hours, sitting at 112 degrees. Looking pretty good. So it's 4 a.m. See how we're doing here. 151 degrees. We've reached the stall here now. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this, wrap it with tin foil, and bring it back. All right, so this thing has been on here for about 5 hours now-ish. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. So it's reached the stall. So we're at the point where the fat is melting and it's stopping the meat from raising in temperature now. So we're gonna wrap it in tin foil, real tight. And that should help get her going again. Back in. Okay, it's about 8 o'clock in the morning. And we are looking good. I think it's about done. Alright, so the pork shoulder took about 10 hours. Actually moved a lot faster than I thought it was going to. But, so luckily, well not luckily, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it, I'm going to wrap it in a towel, and I'm going to put it in a cooler until I pull it, which is going to be in about 4 hours. And that should, woo buddy, that thing's hot. And then I'll hold its temperature, so this thing will hold plenty warm in a cooler, wrapped in a towel. Alright, getting the baby backs on now. The pork shoulder took about 10 hours to cook. Alright, now that the ribs are on, add in smoke. Like I said, I only have apple wood. Alright, while the ribs are cooking, I'm going to make a simple barbecue sauce. So I've got some garlic that's been minced. I have just over a cup of apple cider vinegar. I've got some water, about half a cup of water. Got some ketchup. This is Melinda's ghost pepper ketchup. I don't like to cook with a ton of sugar, so this is maple syrup, about 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, and then some ground black pepper and some red pepper. That's about it. So I've got all the ingredients added now, so I'm going to let this come to a boil, let it reduce slightly, and we're going to be pretty good to go. This is going to be a this is going to be a vinegar-forward barbecue sauce today. With pork, since it's been smoked, and I don't want to overpower the pork flavor. So it's pretty simple barbecue sauce, not super high in sugar, really high on the tomato, ketchup side. This is more vinegar-based today, but backed up with some traditional barbecue flavors. All right, the barbecue sauce just came to a boil. I'm gonna let this thing simmer for about, 15-20 minutes, cool it, and then I'm gonna transfer it to a little spray bottle or a little squirt bottle. Ribs have been on for about 2 hours now. Looking pretty good. I'm gonna say they need about another hour, maybe hour and a half. All right, pork shoulder's been resting for about 2 hours now. Still super hot, but it's time to get this thing pulled. Oh yeah. That's looking good. Get this bone out of here. Definite success. I'm super stoked on how this turned out. It looks great. Tastes good. So I'm going to slowly pull it. I'm going to put it in this crock pot. Keep it warm. But, man, this thing turned out great. Alright, the ribs have been on for about 3.5 hours and they are officially done. So let's get these off and get these sliced. Alright, the ribs just came off and they are looking great. It actually didn't take as long as I thought. Everything went really smooth on this smoke. The ribs took about 3.5 hours. The pork shoulder only took about 11 hours. And I thought it was going to take more like 14, but I think increasing the temperature from 225 up to, it was hovering around 250, 255 the whole time. I really think it helped out. So I'm going to slice these ribs up. I normally turn the rack over and then I go in between every 2 bones so everybody gets a good amount. Alright, to recap, smoked a pork shoulder that I pulled for some pulled pork. I smoked a rack of baby back ribs. Turned out great. It's actually got a little bit of kick from those dry peppers that I put in there. And I made a little, well, Hell's made barbecue sauce. It's way more on the vinegar side than the sweet side this time. In the past, I've normally done like a tomato-based, sweeter barbecue sauces, but this time I decided to go with like a more vinegared one. So I'm just gonna put a little bit on top of the pulled pork, and a little bit on top of the ribs. Hope you guys enjoyed this. This is how I do barbecue. As always, I appreciate your likes, your comments, and I'll see you guys on the next.
Hey, this is Brian Ames. Please click the subscribe button that you see right there, and you'll subscribe to my videos. From now on, I'm going to be eating a lot of peppers. It's going to, oh man, it's going to be great. Bye.